Here we are again, unpredictable as ever, but we are Cheo, Hodari, Coker, and,
David Betancourt.
or as I like to call him, David Betancourt. But
I'm not allowed to say it that way anymore, but thank you.
juntos somos Blerds in the Attic, and we have breaking news. Actually, not really breaking. It broke, or as I already hear somebody in the back of my head saying, we'll break it down, let it be broke. All right, sinners. We were the first. Actually, our first podcast was we just talked about our love for this movie, and hoping that because it came out in the spring, that people would actually remember and recognize how brilliant it was, and as other things came out, would it still be able to sustain? Not only did it sustain, it has shocked the world. Sinners, unless you've been living under a rock or just kind of coming out of the shadows, got 16 Oscar nominations, more than Titanic, more than than Return of the King. It's the most Oscar nominations of all time. I mean, of course, you will hear the anti-woke forces saying, well, one of the reasons it got padded was because of the new casting category. But then what? It's got 15 nominations, even if you take that one away, which is still the best of all time. The only thing coming after it in this season is, of course, One Battle After Another, which is got 13 nominations. I got a lot of, it's okay, just to kind of run down the nominations themselves.
You got the breakdown, right?
Yeah. Sinners was nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, of course, Ryan Coogler, Best Actor, Michael B. Jordan, playing a double role. And, here's the thing. When you think about, the quote-unquote gimmickry of playing, twins and playing both sides against the middle in that way. Arguably the best actor of all time, Robert De Niro, tried it earlier this year in Alto Kings, and Michael B. blew him out of the water, playing two different versions of himself. Because not that Alto Kings, the Alto Knights was the name of that movie, didn't have its moments, and that Robert De Niro still isn't Robert De Niro. It's not as easy as it looks. And there's a really great interview with with Matt Damon, and a conversation with Matt Damon and Michael B. Jordan talking about just the intricacies of it and how actors themselves truly appreciate the performance. You have Delroy Lindo finally getting his first supporting actor nomination, but frankly, he should have got it all the way back in 1992 for Malcolm X. He should have gotten Best Actor when The Five Bloods came out, but Water Under the Bridge, Happy Brother got nominated. Wunmi for supporting actress. Ryan again nominated, this time solo writing in terms of original screenplay. And then, of course, the quote-unquote expected nominations, which are for cinematography, for the music, of course, the casting one that we mentioned, costume design, because Ruthie Carter is just she's a goddess in this category. I don't even know what she probably has 2 or 3 wins. I'd have to look it up, but she's just. If Ruthie Carter does your costume, man, at the very least, the one thing that your movie is going to be nominated for is going to be costume. And I believe also Hannah Beachler also got another nomination for production design. But which I think the last one she got, she might have gotten nominated for both Black Panther movies. I don't know if
I believe she did.
Yeah, and she either won one or both, or at the very least was nominated. I'd have to look it up, and apologies for not doing more homework. But just to say that after all the hate, after Variety kind of saying, oh, this movie's not going to make its money back, and all of just the, even back to there being reports of a quote-unquote shadow ban, this movie is like a vampire, pretty hard to kill. It just keeps coming. It's relentless. But I watched it again last night. As I've been, one of the things I'm writing is some documentary prep. I don't like talking about projects till they're fully founded. But let's just say it's a project about one of my favorite filmmakers, and Friends. But the thing is that I had on Sinners in the background, and it
I'm
doesn't
itching to
age.
rewatch it too.
It doesn't age. It literally, when it gets re-released in 70 millimeter, I'm going to go see it again. And I think
That's the thing. It's about to hit theaters again.
the
If you
thing
haven't
that
seen it in theaters, you got to go see it in theater.
a lot of the racists on Twitter, and I probably should have gotten off Twitter a long time ago, but like, Twitter's toxic girlfriend, you can't quit.
I'm halfway there.
It's just one of those things where even with all the negative feedback and the racism, the interactivity of Twitter, I just like a lot better than Blue Sky, which is, of course, much more even keeled. Than just an echo chamber of people that you want to be around, as opposed to the rawness of Twitter, where you just never know. You just see all types of shit. But a lot of the racists, a lot of the people in their fields are trying to like basically, criticize Sinners, saying, "Oh, well, it's woke," or "Oh, I'm sorry." Every single time I rewatch the movie, I notice something else that I love about it. And here's the thing. I mean, this is one of the things I think we need to talk about. There is a distinct possibility that even with all these nominations, it will win few, if
Yeah.
any, Academy Awards. And that goes back into what people do in the sanctity of the voting booth. There could be that backlash. This is 2026. We know the administration and where we live and everything else. Here's the thing where it gets interesting. I've also rewatched One Battle After Another 3 times. That movie holds up. It's an incredible movie. In any other year, it would probably sweep. But Sinners, like, to me, I liken it to because I'm showing how old I am. I liken it to classic Showtime Lakers versus the Larry Bird, Kevin McHale Celtics.
It feels like that way. It's like a heavyweight fight.
It's a heavyweight
It's like
fight, but
you know what I
yeah,
mean? You've got two. I mean, I think you're more attuned to answer this question than I am, just because of what you do and what you've done. Can you see a situation now? You've already brought up the situation where potentially, even with all these nominations, they perhaps don't come home with a lot of hardware. But in another situation, could you see a scenario where they're kind of popping each other off, like One Battle After Another gets best director and Sinners gets best film, or vice versa? Could you see something like that happening?
very easily. The last time we saw a showdown like this was La La Land versus Moonlight. And I think the thing that's really interesting is that, like, if One Battle After Another ends up running the table, like, will I be disappointed? Yes, but would I be mad? Absolutely not, because it is a brilliant. And this is not. I'm not being conciliatory. It's a brilliant, incredible film on every single front for the same reasons that when seeing it in 70 millimeter, you see the same way that Ryan Coogler takes advantage of um, the cameras, and in terms of just the aperture of the camera, and just in how just it needs to be cinematically experienced. Paul Thomas Anderson is Paul Thomas Anderson. He
Yeah.
Like, there are sequences that when you're watching One Battle After another, where even though it's technically the more conventional film, you still are like, oh my god, I cannot believe, like, particularly that thing with the hills and that last chase. It was just, there are so many parts of it that are just brilliant. So that's why I liken it to the Lakers and Celtics, because yeah, I was always pissed when the Celtics won. I'm a Lakers fan. I'm a Showtime Lakers fan, but every time they won, it's because they kicked ass. And the thing was even as a Lakers fan, you had to live with it, because you did lose. You might not have lost to you hated the Celtics because they were that good.
Yeah.
You know that the better team won. And so
It really does feel like a situation.
That was what was so
I was like,
thrilling about that contest, was you wanted your team to win, and
yeah.
your team deserves it, but at the same time, in losing, not that there's any rewards for second place, to paraphrase Top Gun. At the very least, you lost to a movie that is also going to stand the test of time. And so that's why what's really interesting is I think Ryan doesn't. You talk to Ryan Coogler, you see what he said about it. You talk to people close to Ryan Coogler. I really truly believe he does not care if he wins or loses. He's beyond that. There's a reason that despite his nominations, he's had every opportunity to join the Academy, and he hasn't.
Well,
Not
yeah,
being
I just think the fact that it's
commentary,
not a part of it. Yeah.
that's not what thrills him. He appreciates the opportunity to tell movies. He understands all the struggles that Spike Lee, that John Singleton, and Gordon Parks, anybody that came before him had. Now give him the opportunity to run the table in the way that he has. So I think he's won either way. But what I personally would like, um, Best Picture would be great. I just want the brother to win Best Director. If Ryan Coogler wins Best Director, that is going to be a monumental change. More than likely, he's got a really good shot at winning Best Original Screenplay, which also would be incredible. If the film wins anything, that would be amazing. But I just think that from a groundbreaking standpoint, if he becomes the first African American director to win Best Director, and really, if he does Best Director, Best Screenplay, that puts him on par with Francis Ford Coppola, wins wise.
Wow.
If he wins Screenplay and Director, I mean, it puts him. He already is in the one name category, because if you say Ryan, Martin, Steven, Francis, you already know. You don't have to say the last name, because as a director, as a writer director, he's already on. Christopher. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to finish the sentence, because you know who we're talking about. You know, like, he's already at his young age there, and the future is just so bright. So, like, I could just go on and on and on. But the only thing I thought was interesting is, although a lot of people thought that Chase Infinity got robbed, I mean, it is her first major movie. I really,
Yeah.
in terms of One Battle After Another, I really thought, it's interesting. Tiana Taylor, I think, is now going to really have because of her Golden Globe win, is going to have, the opportunity to win Best Supporting Actress. That's going to be an interesting battle between her and Winmy. But at the same time, I just think of Regina Hall. Regina Hall, to me, is the MVP of One Battle After Another. I just thought the fact that she wasn't nominated, that her performance, even though it was a lot quieter than Tiana Taylor's performance, was equally as brilliant, honestly. And to me, she's kind of the MVP of the film. It's like there's like a whole kind of like Terminator 2, Sarah Connor, come with me if you want to live kind of thing, with that scene in the bathroom, in terms of the lyric of the revolution will not be televised, and just, escaping. I mean, like, it was just such a great performance, yeah.
I've been on the record. I've seen both. I enjoyed both. I enjoyed one a little more than the other. I think One Battle After Another is a fantastic film. Leo is Leo. Benicio is Benicio. I thought Chase did a great job introducing herself to the world. Regina, like you said, phenomenal. But one film just felt more impactful to me, and that was Sinners. I can't, even though I feel that way, my kind of spider sense in terms of someone who's been watching the Oscars for years, my spider sense tells me that One Battle After Another might get Best Film, even though I think Sinners, and that Sinners might be able to get it in other areas, like maybe Best Director, supporting nods, Ruth Carter in design. I don't, even though we've seen situations like that where movies have been heavily nominated and come away with nothing. I was just watching something about The Color Purple on that. We've seen situations like that before. I don't think that's going to befall Sinners. I think there's just too much talent in so many areas. I don't think, for example, if Ryan doesn't get Best Director, maybe it gets Best Picture. If he does get Best Director, maybe it doesn't get Best. I think it's gonna zigzag, just because. I mean, they were both critically acclaimed. We know that the BS Sinners went through in terms of the trades, in terms of the type of stories that were coming out with Ryan and his special deal with Warner Brothers. We know about all that stuff. So Sinners has had to go up against.
Listen, no, it's not even a special deal. What happened is he got the white boy deal, and people
Oh, excuse
and
me.
people are not used to a Negro having that. It's like it's like my favorite line from Malcolm X when Peter Boyle looks at Malcolm when he does that with the hand and then does that, and all those brothers walk off, and then he says, "That's too much power for one man to have." You know,
Too much power for one man to have.
Ryan Coogler got a Tarantino level deal, where the same way that the rights to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that those rights revert back to Quentin Tarantino, because Quentin is Quentin.
Yeah.
Like I'm probably one of his biggest fans and an apologist. I love Quentin Tarantino. Ryan also got that kind of deal, and when that came out, it pissed some people off. And and the fact that it got the most nominations in history, those
Well,
are
it
the
was
kind
very
of
loud how much it pissed some people off just because of the type of coverage that was coming out of the trades in relation to uh how, as you're saying, this shouldn't be, this is a deal that phenomenal directors get. Ryan is a phenomenal director, but you know, any time in history and anything, sports, entertainment, whatever, when it's us the first time it happens, it's always news.
always, of course. I mean, but that's the thing. It's like when you break that kind of ground, it makes people uncomfortable. People are still trying to recover. The entire country is still trying to recover from the outrage that befell the first African American or president. Oh, okay, here we go. He's not African American. Well, okay, fine. The first black president. First black president, 2 terms. Biggest controversy of his term was that he wore a tan suit. And so much outrage over all these different things that we are in the quagmire we are now. And it's not even controversial to say that, because there are people that believe differently than I believe politically that would also just say like, whoa. But here's the thing. It's like when you break that kind of precedent, it's like sometimes it bothers people. Sometimes people can't get their head around it. And then what they'll say, well, hey, why don't you just focus on the quality of the film? What does it have to do? Who cares whether the writer is black or a different color or a different gender? The reason why is because so many people did not have these opportunities. So
Yeah.
many people did not have the ability to break this kind of ground, and that's why it's so important. But here's the thing: it's just like, all that aside, when you look at the camera moves, when you look at the performances elicited, when you look at the structure of the film, when you look at all the different aspects, this movie, Sinners, was a step up for Ryan. And Ryan was our, because I would have said, Ryan is a great writer. He's a great director from the standpoint of that he gets incredible performances, but with the camera, like, does he, is he as much a shooter as some of these other people? I probably would have said that he wasn't until Sinners. And then when you see Sinners, when you look at just the shot selection, the scope, and just how everything, and of course, also so much of that is his cinematographer, because the ground that she broke with him on Wakanda Forever, of course, set their working relationship up where they could really get that kind of Spike Ernest Dickerson, kind of chemistry in terms of how they do the camera moves and everything else. But yeah, like Ryan is I would put him at the forefront of visualists, and I think a lot of directors. That's why I think he really does have a good shot at getting Best Director.
I don't think they're going to go over 16. Sinners is going to win some Oscars. It's just, what are they going to win? I
I
don't,
think
because one battle.
yeah. I mean, to me, I think what they win. I think they win Best Original Screenplay. I think they win. I think Ruthie Carter gets another Oscar.
I think
Ironic.
Ruth would. I think.
Ironically, Kevin Feige's having killing himself, so half of them costumes were meant for Blade. and Delroy was going to be in that version of Blade, so Kevin Feige
Oh man.
is like shaking his head, as is Mahershala. But what do I know? I think that production design, they got a real good shot. And I mean, original song, come on, yeah, like Raphael Sadiq needs to brush off some. But besides his Grammys, he's not going to have an Oscar somewhere, and probably should be going for that EGOT. Ludwig, I think, of course, for score is also got a good shot. To me, the movie will have broken even more ground if Ryan wins Best Director. If it wins Best Picture, of course that would be beautiful, but it wouldn't be as impactful on the industry as it would be if Ryan won Best Director, because it is the one thing that's been elusive for Black directors. And if he crosses that threshold, I mean, it's kind of like a black mobile quarterback winning the Super Bowl. It's like all of a sudden it's like that's just good quarterback play.
It's revolutionary. It's
Exactly.
revolutionary, and the revolutionary part of it is that if Ryan wins, 10 years from now, there's going to be a lot of kids that look like him directing movies that maybe wouldn't have otherwise. That's the impact of when you're revolutionary at your position.
Yeah, and the revolution will be televised in this case.
But no, Sinners, I definitely think will come away with some hardware. Ludwig's score is great. Ruth's costumes, possibly Ryan behind the camera. So I think when the
But then again, I keep going back to this. Like, if it's kind of like Golden Globes, what happened with Golden Globes. I mean, if one battle after another ends up sweeping or ends up winning, will I be disappointed? Yes. Will I be one saying that's outrageous and it should not have won? I can't say that because the movie's that good. Like, having rewatched it, I mean, it's that good. Like, it really is a toss up to a certain extent, and I think it's gonna, everybody wants their candidate to win, but at the same time, I will not say that one battle after another isn't deserving, because it's just all the way around. It's a great movie, and so I just really think this is going to be really one of the best contests in years, because both contenders, I'm trying to think. I mean, you don't almost have to go back to the history of the Academy Awards to try to see when was a more evenly matched battle. Was it with Godfather? I mean, you have to go back.
It just feels like two strong heavyweight candidates. It's like I don't want to say Tyson versus somebody, because Tyson was always so much better than everybody, but that's what it feels like. If Sinners wins Best Picture, it deserves it. If One Battle wins, that film deserves it too. It's like you said, even if One Battle sweeps, you really can't be that mad because the film backs it up.
Well, here we go. It's kind of like why Eli Manning is a first ballot Hall of Famer. It's because so what, he only won 2 Super Bowls. It's who he won the Super Bowls against. He beat Tom Brady twice.
Beat the GOAT twice.
It's just they're just, you can't get past it. You know what I mean?
I'm back in my Washington Post days when the first Black Panther movie came out, I had the chance to meet Ryan and Ruth and Nate Moore, who was the first African American producer at Marvel Studios. Met them all here in DC, and I'm just thinking back to my initial convo with Ryan and how much he impressed me with his focus and his drive and just knowing what he wants to do and where he wants to go. And I always knew he was on the path to everything that he is now. But I don't want to say he's doing it quicker than what I thought it would, but it's just like he just didn't stop. He just kept going, and now he's here.
Well, yeah. Well, the first time I sat with Ryan Coogler was I took him to Soho House. This was way back in the day. I was, as an established television writer, burgeoning showrunner, but then ultimately, having done some features with Charles King set up a meeting with us, and did I walk away impressed? Absolutely. I didn't realize that I was in the presence of Francis Ford Coppola or Miles Davis. I knew that the brother certainly was talented. I knew that I loved Fruitvale, but everything else that he ended up doing, like, I'm not only do I sit in awe, at the same time he's also so inspirational because he really does prove that when it comes down to it, it's about determination, will, and focus, in addition to everything else. Like, because he was not given anything, like
No, he was not.
he's the embodiment of my favorite James Brown song of all time. I don't want nobody to give me nothing. Open up the door, I'll get it myself. That is Ryan Coogler. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that song, when you talk about black empowerment, I love that song. But that is, if I was doing a documentary, if I was doing a trailer of like Ryan Coogler highlights, that would be the song I would use. I don't want nobody to give me nothing, and just the attitude, and that's him. I mean, he just every single movie has leveled up, and so, which is why to this day, going back and looking at Wakanda Forever, it is one of the most impressive performances of all time, because, and all people are like, well, the movie wasn't this, the movie wasn't that. Tell me another movie when you lose your franchise quarterback and you still, at the very least, even though they didn't get $1 billion, it was just under $1 billion. It's still to do what they pulled off, to basically completely rewrite that script, to not take it off the production schedule, to move forward, and to maintain the ensemble and make the movie mean something, and to do all those things, and still, even though it came up short at the box office, but still, I mean, it didn't make $1 billion, but it just underneath that threshold compared to other movies that have come out from Marvel that have not gotten to those heights since. It just makes that performance all the more remarkable. And I think one of those movies that people go back to and now say, okay, wow, that movie was actually better than I remember it, because I was so angry or so disappointed about certain things. And now I look back, well, yeah, like, he still did his thing,
There's two directors right now that will get me to the theater. No questions asked. I don't even need to see the trailer. Just tell me they're directing the movie. It's Christopher Nolan, Ryan Coogler. And ironically, they are both sharing the same composer right now. I love that Ludwig is the composer for both of them.
Yeah. I mean, for me, on that same list, okay, it'd be Christopher Nolan, Ryan Coogler, Spike Lee, Quentin Tarantino. Yeah, there's a certain people that, like, the brand. They are the brand. The
Yeah.
quality is just, even though people want to go after highs, I dug highs to lowest, man. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
I know you talk about that frequently.
I just think that, there's just a certain level of quality that, that you're going to get. And even when you're not, I mean, it's kind of like, I mean, again, here we always veer into sports. It's just like, Pittsburgh is going to find out the hard way that Mike Tomlin was a better, Pittsburgh is going to find out the same way that Buffalo's about to find out that coaching is harder than it looks. You know what I'm saying? And just because you don't get far in the playoffs or these other things, there's a bunch of other structural realities of leadership that have nothing to do with wins and losses. And that when you lose a Sean McDermott, when you lose a Mike Tomlin, they're not easily replaced. And I think that's why one of the things that's so interesting about Ryan is that at such a young age, he's such an incredible leader, that he's able to command the loyalty and garner the kinds of performances out of his actors and just out of himself and out of everybody involved, that you see every bit of that camaraderie on screen,
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, those are my two. Ryan, Nolan, a Ludwig score. I'm there.
Yeah, no
So
doubt.
transitioning to a movie that likely won't be on the Oscar discussion, but you and I will both be seeing nonetheless.
Mhm.
Supergirl has provided us with another little nugget of what's to come this summer, and that was with the first look. Now, not really the first look. He was in the trailer for 0.5 seconds. But we've gotten our first look, good look, more than a
Mhm.
half second look at Jason Momoa as the main man. as they call him in this universe, Lobo.
Yeah, I'm cynical because we know what Jason Momoa is capable of. Like, given you know, given the opportunity, is he going to embody Lobo? Absolutely. He looks like him. He's got the attitude. He's what you imagine. Um, and so my attitude about seeing him with the cigar and the whole thing, getting in the car, I don't, maybe because I'm old and jaded and cynical. I don't like, oh my God, I can't. I'm just like, just put the fucking movie out. It's ridiculous at this point. Like, drop the Super Bowl trailer. Just tell us to show up. We're going to go see it and, hope the best for the movie. It's just like, the way they market movies nowadays kind of pisses me off. I get so sick of these little mini moments.
It's virality. It's all about going viral and trending.
There are better ways to do that. I like this audience is so cynical. It's like, I could give a fuck about seeing, Steve Rogers hold a baby. I'm not gonna rack my brain looking at, and I've gone all down all these Instagram and TikTok rabbit holes of just like constant people trying to put all the clues together. And Tony Stark was never really Tony Stark, and he was adopted. And he knew that when he went back in time and created Howard Stark. I mean, fuck out of here. Like, so many things I can tell you from a writing perspective. There are so many happy accidents that happen when you're writing that you go back and you look at a performance, and then that gives you the opportunity to then change direction because an actor did one gesture, and then that allows you to go back and retroactively change things. And then people act like it's always been the plan. I mean, perfect example in Luke Cage in the pilot when Mahershala's character as Cottonmouth mentions Uncle Pete. And then it was just Alfred had a reaction where she just had this kind of pained look on her face and looked off in the distance. That was all it was. There was no plan. But when we got to episode 7 and we're trying to figure out, okay, what could Mariah have against Pete? And because of the performance that Mahershala, had basically leveled up, what could we do that would justify her actually killing him, and not just ambition, but literally losing her temper in a moment that would do that? All of a sudden, in the writer's room, we're thinking, okay, what would elicit that? And that's how we got to, the dark place that Alfred, that Mariah got to with Uncle Pete and Herb and all of that stuff. But none of that would have happened had Alfred in the first episode just had a reaction that gave us the space to then think, wait a minute, how can we make all this fit together? Because that wasn't the plan, and so it's like, now we're looking retroactively at moments in the Avengers when somebody has an actor takes a departure, and then all of a sudden we're going to make it, oh, they always knew that. They were going to do this in the comics, and just watch the fucking movie. Put some popcorn in your mouth.
It's been very, social media and virality and being trending on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok has become such a part of the formula of so many brands, not just in entertainment and sports and everything. And one thing we know about James Gunn, way more so than Kevin Feige, he's much more active on social. I don't even think, Kevin Feige probably still has an AOL email. I don't know. I mean, he doesn't strike me as a person that's like, oh, what are the kids tweeting about? James Gunn is actually always on social media. He'll even debunk stupid rumors from time to time. And the Jason Momoa image, one of the first people to put it up on their social media network, was James Gunn. So
Yeah.
it's very, on the one end, you've got a studio head that's with it a little bit in terms of understanding how social media works, but it's also kind of recognizing that this kind of tease is just kind of a new thing in terms of how they promote the movie.
No, I agreed. I mean, because here's, I'm not going to begrudge the Russos. I'm not going to begrudge James Gunn, who obviously are incredible at what they do. My viewpoint, and this is the fun I have with what we do with our podcast, is I can react purely as a fan. I can react purely as somebody that, even though I've been to premieres, even though I've had the opportunity to talk to a lot of people, and also in some cases work with some people, when the smoke clears, I'm a Thursday midnight show person. Like, I don't even wait till Friday. I'm there when they release the big blockbusters on Thursday night. I'm going to the Thursday night show alone.
Yeah,
I don't
same.
care. And so this, I have the same reaction as anybody else, which is also my attitude. Why I call myself Candyman when it comes to Twitter. Like, if you say my name 4 times, I arrive. But I'm just saying, from a fan standpoint, I hate these little teasers. Give me a more substantial trailer. And give me that trailer at a moment where I'm not going to have to wait forever to then go and see the movie. So, perfect example.
That trailer's got to be at the Super Bowl, right? It's got to be.
Well, I'm hoping so. Like, hopefully they end up dropping that trailer. Hopefully Avengers will drop a trailer. They got to drop the Michael Jackson trailer because, Michael Jackson's coming out, I think, in April. And it seemed like forever ago when we first saw that trailer and we were losing our minds on it. But the fact that it's going to be coming out within a month and a half of the Super Bowl,
and that was a teaser trailer. You still need the full trailer.
Come on, man. Like that, I'm more excited about that in some ways than I am even some of these Avengers movies. But I'm hoping that my mind gets blown at the end of the year. I'm hoping that these movies live up to the hype. I really want to see what's happening, with the Spider-Man thing. Like, it's going to be really interesting. And so all I'm saying is, rather than all the speculation and these endless TikTok and Instagram rabbit holes of everybody going back and them saying, it's just, I don't know, like, they know how manipulative they're being when they have the nerve to tell people, oh, well, all 4 trailers are clues. And then that just sends some of these people into tizzies, and then they start rewatching everything. No, just say, I've got no idea. I'm making shit up like everybody else. You know what I'm saying? It's just like the attention economy drives me crazy.
In terms of the Lobo thing, one, my guess is he's not, and I've heard this from the test screenings. There's only so much. The movie's called Supergirl, not Supergirl and Lobo. It's called Supergirl. So this is more so going to be a nice little cameo. Probably have some nice fights, say some funny stuff, say Bastich and all Lobo's cool words that he says. The main man will be smoking a cigar. But at the end of the day, it's Supergirl's movie. Do I think this is kind of like a field test to see how people respond to Jason as Lobo, to where he could potentially do more? Yes. Do I think there will be a Lobo movie? I don't know. Would Jason like that? Probably. But I think I could more so see this character of Lobo popping up in other DCU movies. Like, maybe he'll even be in Superman, Man of Tomorrow. Who knows? But it was funny. I was trying to remember if I predicted this when I was at the Washington Post, and I did. I was doing kind of a movie roundup, kind of like looking at the year. It was like January, and I was looking at the year of superhero movies coming up. And when I got to Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, in my write-up, I said, this is pretty much the end of the Zack Snyder universe, because at that point we knew James Gunn was going to be the co-head of DC Studios, was starting a different direction, new Superman movie. And one of the last things I said about in my little blurb about the Aquaman movie, I said, Jason would make a pretty cool Lobo, though. So that is from my kind of geeky fandom perspective of just being someone who's read comics their whole life, liked Lobo. And from the moment I first saw Jason, well, it was the moment Jason entered the DCU, because even when he was suited up as Aquaman, you're looking at this brother and you're like, that's Lobo. And he knew it too. That he was literally one of the first people to reach out to James Gunn when James Gunn got the job. So having said that, just looking at him, I got the picture up here right now. Looks great. Go figure. A guy that looks like Lobo looks good as Lobo. Breaking news. It is not.
Yeah.
But that little, the fun of it, the fact that, yes, we know we got it. It's all here. I think it'll be a fun little cameo, but it's not going to make or break the Supergirl movie. That relies on a lot of other factors.
Well, I think the success of the DCU under James Gunn, and let's not even get into all the Netflix and Warner Brothers versus Paramount of it all, is going to depend on, Gunn's ability to delegate. He has a very strong and clear vision of the DCU, and because he's such a powerful writer director, tends to, as is the trend nowadays, to have a hand in writing everything.
Yeah.
Even when you see Creature Commandos, the animated, what's his visual? It's him, at his laptop, like typing things out. Like, is it ego play? Absolutely, but he backs it up because he's got the track record as a director and a writer. But the thing is that he's only as fast as his ability to write, and so there has to be a way, hopefully, where he can expand his universe by letting other people in and give other people the opportunity to, um, you know, explore the characters. Or, I think the one weird thing that they have is that because the Batman exists, but he's already kind of gone on record on saying that Batman is not his DCU Batman.
Yeah.
Like
That's an Elseworlds thing.
that's one of those things where that kind of sometimes can get interesting. Um, and now, speaking of and kind of jumping ahead, and some of the things that we wanted to talk about today, with Christina Hodson now getting the opportunity to write Batman Brave and the Bold. Well, first, kudos, congratulations. I think what's interesting is in doing that, because Matt Reeves has kind of declared himself the king of his Batman kingdom. Is Robert Pattinson gonna be that Batman, or is this gonna now mean another recast? And in doing that, is that gonna be a part of James Gunn's version of the DCU? And how does that work out? You've got great comic book source material, but like, it's something like we talked about, like television, and the fact that you got HBO Max and soon possibly Netflix. It would give you the opportunity to really have a bunch of concurrent television shows, not that different than what we did when we interlinked on the original Marvel television universe, the Luke Cage, Daredevil, Punisher, Iron Fist, and Jessica Jones worlds. You could do that infinitely, probably in some ways even better with the DCU, because DC is really more oriented towards that, where you could have a bunch of shows and then treat the movies themselves as like annuals, or like these kind of event, issue 12 kind of moments, and I just don't understand why people aren't really taking more advantage of that. Particularly because, whether it's the Daily Planet, or Gotham's police you have endless possibilities for procedurals or workplace dramas, in addition to
I don't.
having your superhero thing. And they did that better than anybody, because Penguin is one of the great crime dramas.
Matt's built such an incredible Gotham City uh, under the perspective of his vision, and I love the Batman, love the Penguin. Can't wait for the sequel. If Sebastian Stan really is going to be Harvey Dent, I think that's going to be spectacular. But I do not see Matt's Batman Gotham City world bleeding over into James's DCU. I think the Batman is going to continue to be an Elseworlds thing. One, because we know that the first Batman movie that will be a part of James Gunn's DCU, it's Brave and the Bold. It's a dynamic duo movie. It's going to be Batman and Robin, and not just any Robin. It's going to be Damian Wayne, who's the current iteration of Robin in the comics, and Batman's son. For all those reasons, another thing, I am honestly hoping that Matt Reeves will give us his version of Robin the Boy Wonder. I personally myself think we have already met Robin. I think he's one of the characters that was in the first movie that we saw just for a second. That's just my little guess. So even if Matt does decide to put Robin in the Batman Part Two, it's not going to be anything having to do with the Robin we're going to see in Batman Brave and the Bold. And for that reason, I don't think Pattinson's Batman will come over to. Not that I don't think it wouldn't work. I think Pattinson would be great. I'd love to see
Mhm.
Pattinson's Batman alongside uh, of James Gunn's current Superman. I
Mhm.
just don't think it's going to happen. But in terms of Christina getting the chance to write this movie, she's got some great movies under her belt. She's obviously somebody that they trust. I think you've got to have someone who can bring a little bit of light. Damian in this movie is so important, and the relationship between Batman and whether he's a reluctant father or realizing that Damian's his responsibility, that he's basically conceived an assassin molded by the League of Shadows. There's all that stuff that goes into it. Even the fact that Damian always speaks like he's 40 years old, even though he's like 10. So there's a she's
I mean,
the assignment isn't easy.
well, that's the thing. I mean, it's got Chalamet written all over it. Honestly, you
As
know,
Damian, you think?
yeah, yeah. I mean, it just depends on whether or not he wants to cash out. You know what I'm saying? Like if he wants to basically back up the Brinks truck, or you could very easily see him doing something like that. You could also go a different direction where you could go the direction of having someone like Tom Holland jumping franchises. Like if they decide they don't
I,
want to
ne-
do Spider-Man movies
I,
anymore,
ne-
you know.
I never would have thought of Chalamet as Robin, but I can see that. I myself, I mean, if Chalamet ends up winning an Oscar, they might not be able to afford him as Robin. Um, but
Oh,
I hope,
if he says I want to be Robin and pair me up with whoever he wants at as playing his dad, they will find the money. Never begrudge Hollywood's ability to do that, because they are finding ways to pay Robert Downey Jr. $80 million and Downey World and all the. I mean, oh my God, his perks are insane. I like,
yeah.
you know.
For me, and spoiler alert, I've said this on this podcast before. My favorite character is Robin the Boy Wonder. I'm a Tim Drake guy because of my age and growing up, reading Batman comics in the 90s when I was 12, 13 years old. Uh, but I've grown to appreciate Damian. I'll always be a Tim guy, but Damian is, he's got his following. He's the current Robin now. But the thing I enjoyed most, the thing that helped me like Damian in the comics, because I was kind of reluctant to embrace him, even when Grant Morrison introduced him with Batman and Son, because I loved Tim so much. But Tim had been Robin since the early 90s, so I understood that they wanted to move on from that. But the one thing that made me enjoy Damian when I didn't want to was the fact that he was actually a child. And that's something in terms of Robin that we had not seen since Dick Grayson, in terms
Mhm.
of there actually being a kid standing next to Batman. So that's one thing I don't know if they'll do, but if they actually do go out and get a 10, 11, 12-year-old kid to play Robin in Batman Brave and the Bold, I think that would be a great way to kind of distinguish yourself from the Robins we've seen before.
Yeah, true. But then you really have to see if in doing that, um, what that entails, because yeah, like if you're lucky enough to find yourself a Tom Holland or a Daniel Radcliffe, absolutely go for it. But sometimes when you have, I mean, you see what happened with Stranger Things. Like, it's like they were supposed to be kids, and now they got so old because it took so long to make all the shows. and
Yeah.
and I can tell you that as a father, like, you know how quickly kids grow from the teenage years, like how a 14-year-old, by the time scant 6 years past in their 20, it's two different people. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So it's like, and we know that to make two movies in 6 years is like, that would be fast, unless you really were going to commit to, okay, and they very easily could do this. They very easily could say, okay, we're confident in this, and we're going to hire two or three people to write, and we're going to make these movies, successful, in succession, in success. That would be one thing, but I think they would be better. Who knows? If they were going to go, you're right, because I was assuming that, like, I'm just thinking cynically as a producer. If you have the chance to get Chalamet or to get a young 25-year-old actor, and you're going to pair them with a middle-aged Batman, there's enough age dichotomy, and at the same time, you also have actors that can play the emotions when they're older. I would go that direction rather than having a kid, if I'm going to be comic book accurate, so to speak. because it's hard to find kids that really have those kind of chops. It's hard to find, you know,
Yeah. See, this is where your expertise as a maker of television and having made superhero stuff, this is where
but
your expertise is colliding with my being a fanboy and just wanting to see a 10-year-old in a domino mask and a cape.
but here's the thing: if you have the patience and you're built for it, you can find those gems. Because although I sometimes want to think that people that have not watched The Wire exist, there are plenty of people that have never watched The Wire. And this is your opportunity when you're on HBO Max watching both Sinners and One Battle After Another to go back to season 1 of The Wire and see a young Michael B. Jordan who was in his early teens. And to see that level of growth, you see all the brilliance and how he played Wallace in that arc and all the expertise of it. And then you contrast it with who he is now. I mean, it's really a fascinating exercise, honestly. And so, like, you can't find young actors that can do that. Like rewatching Man on Fire, Dakota Fanning playing opposite
Oh yeah,
Denzel Washington.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, if we're going to talk about Haley, go all the way back to True Grit. Like, I mean, young, of course, probably the best child actor of all time is who? Jodie Foster. I mean, when you've got it at whatever age. Leonardo DiCaprio, come on. Like, he's been at this 35, 40
Once
years.
rumored to be Robin at one point, Leonardo DiCaprio.
Exactly. Like, I mean,
I just feel like the DCU that James is building that is very bright and colorful and very comic book influenced. I feel like if there's any iteration of DC on film where you can justify actually having a kid play Robin the Boy Wonder in a story that's essentially Batman and son, I feel like it's this DCU that James is building.
yeah, I can see
Like
that.
I don't think a kid Robin would work alongside Ben Affleck's Batman. I don't think a kid Robin would work alongside Christian Bale. But whatever Batman, and we still don't know who is going to be Batman for James Gunn, but whoever it is, I think that universe that James is building for DC could support a kid, actual 10, 11-year-old kid being in that role as
Yeah.
Robin.
Well, yeah, and I think if you find the right actor, it could be interesting because what you would be playing is you would be playing the fact that Batman is a clearly unsuitable father figure for anybody. Like, it's just he's too messed up. And honestly, for me, just in the visceral sense of Batman, I mean, Batman to me, this goes back to something I've always said. No Batman movie should cost more than $50 million. Like, they ought to give Batman the kind of budget cap they would give the average African American director. Because if a black director ever finally got a chance to direct Batman, they wouldn't give him all the $200 million bells and whistles. They'd probably say, "Look, here's $75 million. See what
Do
you
what
can come
you
up."
can do.
And I'd be like, hey, I can make a $75 million Batman movie because he's a messed up rich dude who lost both his parents and runs around in his underwear at night beating people up. That does not take a lot of money. You could really go Brian De Palma with the shit and just get real crazy and visceral and just and just have him be he's kind of crazy. And I think if you played that and you had an actor that could really kind of play that balance, this is not the kind of person you want to counsel another kid who also saw his whole family die in front of him and says, "Hey, kid, you want to, to pay." And we have to talk to, we have to talk to Sam Hamm. You want to dance with the devil in the pale moonlight, like
Right.
that's going to be Batman's advice to young Dick Grayson.
I wonder if 'cause, the cool factor with Damian Wayne when you talk about him as Robin is who his mother is, Talia al Ghul, a character who we've met in the Christopher Nolan trilogy, and his grandfather, Ra's al Ghul, homeboy right here, who I've got stacked up on my wall. One of my favorite characters from Batman the Animated Series.
Mm-hmm.
Voiced by the guy who was a scientist in the Ninja Turtle movie. It's just such a weird when you play the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon.
You
But I hope they go there.
you are a card carrying, like you have a Black American Express card, blurred card, man, full fledged, man.
Let's say I like my superhero stuff, but no, I'm just Christina Hodson has her work cut out for her because if you're, whenever Batman Brave and the Bold begins, it's likely going to be when Matt Reeves' Batman universe ends. I can't see them existing at the same time. That just doesn't seem, it seems counterproductive. As wonderful as Matt Reeves' universe is, I just feel like whether he intended it to be a trilogy or if it's going to wrap up with the Batman Part 2, because we know Brave and the Bold is coming in James Gunn's DCU. There's a lot of things to consider, but Christina Hodson has her work cut out for her, but they clearly think she's up for the job. So, good luck, Christina.
No, absolutely good luck. And from a writing standpoint, if you're not a writer director, you were literally, to paraphrase, Hamlet, suffering the slings of outrageous fortune, because you are at the whim of your director, you're at the whim of the studio, your villains change, tonally things shift. It's an impossible job, and the fact that she's been able to navigate for this long within the DCU is amazing. And so, like, I really have the highest hopes for her writing the movie, because I've had I've dealt with those kinds of politics on different things that I've worked on, and you earn every penny, you really do. And so if even a quarter of her vision ends up being translated into an actual film, I think that would be amazing, because it's not an easy job at all.
I just want to see Robin in a film. I'm so happy that this is a Batman and Robin movie. We have not seen a dynamic duo on film. I'm not counting Joseph Gordon-Levitt in the Nolan trilogy. That was just kind of a wink, ha ha thing. But we haven't seen Robin since our boy Chris O'Donnell. And we've spoken before about the fact that Marlon Wayans was supposed to be Robin in the original Burton film. So it's a character that I feel that has been danced around a lot, because I think a lot of people think, oh, well, how seriously can we take it? Or people don't think it's a joke, this and that. No one argues that Batman is cool. But I think when you get to the execs and the people that are in charge of putting all the money into these movies, you get to a point where it's like, Robin, we got to make, it seems like whenever there's got to be a cut made, Robin's the first person you think of when it comes to anything Batman related. So I'm biased. He's my favorite character. Love him to death. I'm a Tim Drake guy, so I'm not a Damian guy, but I do want to see Damian in this movie. Hell, I hope Dick Grayson and Tim Drake are also in this movie. I hope all the Robins are in this movie.
Fly, Robin,
But
fly.
it is interesting though, because whenever this is very preliminary. Okay, Christina Hodson's writing the movie. That's great. The Batman Part 2 doesn't come out until 2027. It's probably going to be the 2030s. See, so it sounds so weird to even say. It's going to be the 2030s before we probably can even think of seeing Batman Brave and the Bold on the screen.
Well, I think people have got to stop being so precious about how long it takes to do these movies, and they have to just give writers and directors the ability to. Because trust me, they put all the pressure on us, like, to write one of these motherfuckers in like 3 months. So then why can't you make a movie in a year and a half or a year? You know what I'm saying? It's like, there will be, the second you get that job, they got a gun to your head, like, we need a script in 3 months, 4 months. And so if you're going to put that much pressure on a writer to write that quickly, at the very least, like it is in television, behoove them to have an opportunity to have a seat at the table and push things in production if you're going to put that kind of pressure on it. Otherwise, like, what are you doing? And so I really think that it is possible for them to make these movies faster, but they have it takes a certain level of blind faith. I think what it would take is one of the things that when for I'm thinking of the movie American Fiction. When the writer of American Fiction won his Oscar, and he was giving, of course, and he also wrote really great episodes of Watchmen. And
Cord,
yeah, and when Cord Jefferson got on stage, and he said, "Hey, rather than making $100 million movie, why don't you make 10, $10 million movies?" I'm paraphrasing what he's saying. Like, they really could just make more high quality, smaller movies. I guess some people would say, would call that television. I mean, it's almost like
Yeah.
that Key and Peele skit where they talk about getting a job at the bank to case the bank, and they said that's a job. It's like, but I think that if they had a little more faith in these movies, they would plan, just make more than one. I'd rather see two bad movies that tried to be about something than putting all my eggs in $100 million movie that no one asked for, like, the late Tron Ares, and then it's just like, what is it? You know what I mean? Because then everybody's pissed, it just, the blame goes in all these different directions, as opposed to, what are you really trying to build?
Well, a conclusion to that, I'll just say good luck, Christina, and to James Gunn in DC, have some guts, put a kid in the Robin suit. But now we're going to venture back to Marvel a little bit. So I don't know if you are aware, but we're almost upon us the debut of Wonder Man
Yeah.
on Disney Plus, and I know they just had the premiere in Hollywood. I haven't seen the screeners. I didn't ask for the screeners. I should have, but sometimes I kind of like just enjoying things as is without having my email watermarked across the screen that I'm watching.
Mm-hmm.
But the buzz for Wonder Man has been surprisingly good. I know that they showed at the preview the first 3 episodes, and so far so good. Now, you and I have both been on the record as saying that we don't really know what this show is about. I myself, Wonder Man is not a character I have particularly cared about.
Mm-hmm.
The lead actor here is someone who I'm very fond of because of his work in Watchmen and Aquaman. I've done features on him. He's a fantastic actor.
Really
But it
is.
looks like the buzz is. I'm very. It's been a while since a Marvel anything had this type of or this quantity of positive buzz. So I'm somewhat hopeful here.
Well, here's the thing. And I'm biased. I think that oftentimes the black superheroes are they they underestimate the audience's love for well done black superheroes, and just how monstrous the response is, because you've got a community that's starving to see heroes. And so when you deliver something that, ups the ante, like a Black Panther, I get a lot of criticism for Luke Cage, good and bad, but I'm going to side on the good side and say that, we did our thing, for 26 episodes. When you were able to
Yeah.
present that level of content, to an audience that is starving, to see black heroes, but then at the same time have it have flavor and have it have an impact. Luke Cage season 1, the first time around, like, we literally were the first show to shut down Netflix. I think Ironheart was a much better show than they anticipated. And honestly, have they just given a little more love promotion wise, even though people wanted to criticize it and try to review bomb it, I really dug Ironheart. The fact that
I did
critics
too.
are really, really liking, what this is, if they kind of put a little more push into it, I think, it's they were dumping the episodes for a reason, and I'm thinking it might partially be that they didn't really understand what the show was doing. But now the critics are basically are showing you that, yeah, what they were doing is really good, and if it takes off, I think it's going to be interesting, because, okay, then you're going to have all this buzz for this character that, unless that character is going to show up in other places, other parts of the MCU, um, that's where it gets interesting. Of course, the director, Daniel Cretton, was also directing the Spider-Man movies. So that could be really interesting in terms of, will he have the opportunity to incorporate Wonder Man into the larger MCU? Will he make cameos? There's also a lot of buzz about different returning characters in Daredevil. So we'll see who occurs and when and how. But I think that there's going to be a much bigger anticipation or clamoring for those heroes if given the opportunity. And also, like I think that the pit aside, I think people still like binging. When you drop all the episodes at once, I really do think I'm more of a fan of it than most people. Um, I think having the ability to watch the entire thing and make an opinion about it helps the overall show. Because perfect example, like Fallout season 1 was amazing. Fallout season
Yeah.
2, they're doing it one episode at a time, and they're getting killed in the ratings, undeservedly, because it's a really good show with amazing writer showrunner. So like, you just wonder, like, had they just dropped them all at once, so you really had full context of being able to understand the entire arc, if it would have done better.
Wonder Man has a lot of good things going for it. And I speak as now, we've already been on record saying how much of a geek I am when it comes to comics and superheroes, how much I love this stuff. Wonder Man is a character I've never cared about. I came across him a few times reading Avengers West Coast back in the day in the late 80s, early 90s. I know there's the actor of him being the angle of him being an actor and, turning into a superhero, always having the red shades and the W across the chest. But this has never been a character I really cared about. But when I look at everyone who's in this, first of all, Destin Daniel Cretton directed one of my favorite MCU movies ever, Shang-Chi, and he's now got the Spider-Man franchise in his hands. So Marvel clearly trusts him,
Oh, and
and I trust.
he's also Hawaiian, so got to give him the shaka.
Oh, okay, look, Mister. I live in Hawaii. I don't have to worry about the pending snowstorm.
You damn straight. I see you all. I see you all bundled up. I
Hey,
saw the. I saw
it's
the fact that we had to move our normal taping time because you were out buying supplies and stuff.
I had to get bread and milk, brother. I had to get pan y leche. No,
Yeah.
but no, I mean, just looking at. So what I'm saying is Wonder Man is a character that I have never cared about. And it's all generally, not all the time. I know there are cases like Miles Morales, but a lot of times when you have characters who were not black in the comics and are then black on, in an adaptation, it's usually a character that, fandom isn't going to go ballistic about. No one cares that Commissioner Gordon or Perry White are played by Lawrence Fishburne or Jeffrey Wright. Obviously, if you do that to Batman, it's a different story. People flip out. But I'm just trying to say that that's the type of character that Wonder Man is, to where it's not a big deal that you're making that switch. Yeah, incredible actor. I've liked him in everything he's done. The director, love what he's done. Ben Kingsley, I think his Trevor Slattery is, I think, one of the greatest in terms of the superhero genre, one of the greatest play action fakes of all time.
Well,
Because when that Iron Man 3 trailer came out, he was a gangster, just fear mongering terrorist, and the switch he made to an actor was so hilarious, and the fact that he has milked that into what is now going to be a very strong role in this show. The combination of all those things makes me want to watch Wonder Man, and I'm honestly not surprised that the reviews have initially been good, just because of so many people, many of the people that are involved that I have a lot of respect for.
I mean, Ben Kingsley is him. And what I would say, well, first, Yaha, of course, like Yaha finally getting a chance to really do his thing is amazing. So shout out to that brother. I can't wait to see that, and I can't wait to see what he does with Man on Fire. Which, man, that was one of the shows, man. I wish I'd gotten that one, because I already had the tagline for that show, which is "He has time today." You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's funny because so Cretton has said that when Kingsley and Ya were together, it was like they it just worked very well on camera. And it's funny because
but also here's the thing: is like, here's where I'm really going to date myself. Is like Gandhi is such an amazing movie, and so few people have actually seen it. Not, I mean, of this generation, because
yeah.
when they think of Sir Richard Attenborough, if people Google the name, they're like, oh, the old dude from Jurassic Park, the guy with the cane. Like, no, he was actually him. He was actually one of the best directors of all time, and then he directs, Gandhi, which when you look back at that movie was incredibly well done. Huge influence on the structure of Notorious. Because I remember the impact of as a kid when I watched Gandhi, of what it meant to, what that movie meant, watching that movie. But he's been a great actor for a long time, and so I think it's really interesting. It's with the Anthony Hopkins, the Dustin Hoffmans, and the Ben Kingsley's of the world. They've been serious actors for so long that they got no problem being silly now, and so I think being able to see that is really cool, because they already know that the bag is secured and the legacy is secured, so now they can actually play.
I just what Cretton said in terms of directing them and them being together. I mentioned Ben Kingsley and his play action fake as the Mandarin. Yaya had a similar experience on Watchmen. I remember watching Watchmen thinking, why did he take this role?
Mm-hmm.
He's not doing anything. Like, it was such, and they're just, it's like the setup pitch, the play action fake, just totally. And both of them ended up doing total 360s to where obviously Ben Kingsley's Trevor Slately wasn't the Mandarin. And then we found out that Yaya was actually Dr. freaking Manhattan in Watchmen. So to see both of them.
Yeah, although technically 180 as opposed to 360. If it was 360, they'd be the same.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Very okay.
I'm sorry.
For one of us, it's 9 p.m. I don't live on a fortress of solitude on Hawaii. Okay, forgive me.
Hey.
But yes, in terms of the angles they turned, both of them.
180.
In terms of all the angular movement,
correct.
Both put in fantastic performances in terms of not being who you thought they were, and then the person they are being an incredible character. So to see two actors like that together playing off of each other, that makes me want to watch Wonder Man, on top of the fact that the buzz has been good. So, and I'm happy the buzz is good because Yaya's a great actor. He deserves, he's very deserving of a Marvel franchise. I thought his work in Aquaman was, unheralded. I thought he was a great villain, and he's got the chops for it. So I'm very, so Wonder Man debuts on the 27th. I believe it's 8 episodes total. You'll get the first 3 on the 27th when it debuts. We're likely going to be snowed in here in the District of Columbia, unlike Hawaii Boy. I'm gonna just start calling you Superboy. I got the Superboy issue behind me where he's flying over Hawaii.
Well, hey man, it's like here's the world's tiniest mandolin. No. Here's the world's smallest ukulele. Playing for your pain. Honestly, but I'll be watching it the same time as you are. Albeit, it'll be later for me because I'm 5 hours behind you, 6 hours once daylight savings time kicks in. But
I'll just be buried in blankets. That'll be the only difference.
But I'm looking forward to that, and then I know we got to wrap soon because I got to go. But Masters of the Universe. What I will say is, never in life have I, just hearing about an IP, did I not want to see a movie, and then had a 180 reaction to seeing a halfway decent trailer for it. Maybe this movie could actually be interesting, because I didn't even like the cartoon as a kid. It was dumb dumb as hell. And then and then really got because
you have offended me, sir.
Because that's I was a little older when it came out. You know what I'm saying? I was more Spider
Yeah,
Man.
and I knew we were gonna have this combo because, and I was thinking about that too because seeing that trailer, all of us who were born in the 80s, because I've had so many conversations with friends on social media, texting, whatever. All of us who were born in the 80s who grew up on He-Man are flipping the F out because it pulled on those emotional strings of your childhood and something that you really loved. But I remember saying to myself, because I remember when we were talking about the X-Men cartoon, I was like, oh, I love the X-Men so much. And I used to eat my Lucky Charms and it'd be Saturday and I'd be 12 years old. And you were like, yeah, I was hanging out with Snoop Dogg and having conversations with grown women while you were doing that. So I had a feeling you would have a similar
What?
statement
What?
with He-Man because
Well, for me, it's like the same way that Voltron, like Gotcha Man, G Force. You know what I'm saying? Like those are older, and I'm gonna have a little more of a visceral reaction to those because
yeah, yeah.
by the time He-Man came out, I was outside. You know what I'm saying? So
So here's the thing. First of all, it looks great. I was someone who was initially very turned off by the initial images that were coming out when they first started filming the paparazzi images or whatever they were. Because it's once again now obviously we had the Masters of the Universe back in the 80s with Dolph Lundgren, cult
mhm,
classic if you ask me. Loved it because I was 7 years old when it came out. What we had like when the images first came out, I was like, I'm not gonna like this movie.
mhm,
And the reason I thought I wasn't gonna like it is because I don't want to see He-Man in the real world.
right.
And it's kind of like this fun Marvel Studios humor kind of thing going on in the trailer where it almost has the feeling of a Hollywood exec saying, we can't just do Eternia. We have to have him with some real stakes so that we can connect to a real up. I don't want to see that. I want I want this He-Man movie to be like the Odyssey. And when I'm watching the Odyssey trailer, I don't need to see Matt Damon at a Dunkin' Donuts before he goes into battle. You know what I'm talking about?
What, what, you know what it is? The execs that greenlit this movie were old enough to remember Flash Gordon, the Flash Gordon movie that had when Queen did the soundtrack. That's how old I am. I remember as a kid going to see Flash Gordon in movie theaters. You know what I'm saying? And that
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
being a whole thing where he came from the real world and then ended up in this other place. And now because interdimensional travel is now such a staple of comic book fiction and everything else, like I'm not surprised that they did that because you have to have some people get their head around the fact that the pronouns, the He-Man of it all, which I thought was pretty funny how people were kind of reacting negatively to that, but did
I
whatever.
thought that was hilarious. I
Yeah.
thought that was hilarious. But I will say that trailer blew me away. It took me a second because again, I would and I know within the lore of He-Man, his mother is from Earth. She went to another universe, gave birth to Prince Adam. So he actually does have a connection. I don't know if they're going to do that in the movie, but in other platforms, he has had that connection
Brother,
to Earth.
I'm genuinely impressed with the level of knowledge you have of the world and everything else. I mean, so next you're gonna tell me that like Mjolnir, like the fact that we're geeky enough to know that Thor's hammer has a name. Does He-Man's sword have a name? And if you know it, I'm
No,
cutting this off right now.
no, it doesn't have a name, but I do know that She-Ra has an identical sword, but it just has a little, diamond in it instead.
There we go.
Look,
And
He-Man was my
this is a
He-Man,
demographic for this movie.
bro. He-Man was my jam. I watched the cartoons. I had the pajamas. I had the toys. I had the cereal. This is like me when I'm 4, 5 years old. It's like the very beginnings of me in my youth
Mhm.
realizing that I'm into this stuff, that I'm into fantasy, that I'm into swords and
Yeah.
adventure and battle
Well, I
cats and all
mean,
this.
this is the generation where instead of iPads raising your kids, television used to raise your kids. Saturday morning
Oh,
cartoons
absolutely.
were entirely designed so that adults could sleep till 9.
Yeah, because you would get up, you would get your cereal, you wouldn't wake up mom and dad, you would go to the TV, and you'd be there for 3, 4 hours.
There you go.
That He-Man is a big deal to me, and it is very important for people like me who are of my age range. I was born in 1980. He-Man, I think, started coming out in 83 and lasted for a few years. but there's a lot of people that this movie means a lot to. So when the trailer was kind of goofy, oh, I need to find my sword at the store. Oh, I'm dealing with the human resources lady. I didn't like that stuff. But when it got to Eternia,
Yeah,
and you've got our boy Idris Elba as Man at Arms, and you've got the Sorceress, and you've got Castle Grayskull. This movie looks so good, you almost forget that Jared Leto is playing Skeletor.
yeah. I mean, but Jared Leto's agent is the real MVP. 'Cause no matter what happens, Jared gets work. You know what I'm saying? And I you know, and
But he
Oscar.
looks, Skeletor looks great. Skeletor looks fantastic.
No, it does. It does.
When the
That,
camera first opened up on his face, and
yeah,
you've got like the black of the eyes, but you can see it like moving a little bit. I was like, oh, they're putting some thought into this.
no doubt, no doubt.
And of course, we get the "I have the power" with the sword up and all that stuff. We saw Cringer. We didn't see Battle Cat. So my guess is that will be saved for the
Knowing
full
Hollywood,
trailer.
they're probably still working on CGI. So who knows?
Oh, absolutely. This film is still being, so June 5th is the release date. They're clearly still working on CGI. They've shown us what they could. I think that's why we haven't seen more of the Sorceress and also other kind of magical characters that rely heavily on CGI. But it passed the eye test for me. I again was very reluctant because I don't want to see. I wish we lived in a world where this could have just all taken place on Eternia and even had more of a darker, serious tone. But it looks good. The sword looks great. Idris looks great as Man at Arms. We've got let me pull up the cast here really quick. Allison Breeze playing Evelyn. Kristen Wiig is the voice of Roboto.
Yeah.
And Camila Mendez from Riverdale is playing Tila.
Yeah, I mean,
there's
they definitely went all out.
Morena Baccarin from Gotham is the Sorceress. I mean,
yeah,
and He-Man himself, Nicholas Galtazine. Look, man, I had every reason when I saw that real world stuff. I'm like, oh man, it's gonna be silly and this and that. But when they got to Eternia, your boy's hopes rose.
Yeah.
So yes, I do know a little too much about He-Man. Yes, I had all the toys, even the battle damage one where you would, tap it and it go from like perfect armor to damaged armor. I had it all.
Okay.
So
I'm going to date myself in terms of I had Kenner start. The only argument that my mother and I ever had was when I came back my freshman year from Stanford. The fact that she gave away my Millennium Falcon and my Death Star.
Oh no!
I had original Kenner toys. I mean, that probably could have paid for college. Oh, so kid came over.
You went to Stanford twice.
You know what I'm saying? Anyway, I unfortunately have to end this because I'm back to back. But again, here we are. Another incredible episode of Blerds in the Attic. A lot to talk about, a lot to follow up on. In the next weeks, we got to see what happens. I mean, I can't wait for us to do our Oscar follow-up to find out, who won what. But yeah, again, man, as always, a pleasure us talking and get into it. And I'm just very happy to be here in Hawaii while you're freezing.
Well, I send you a very a muy frío adios. We're about to get blitzed here, man. So you enjoy that Hawaiian sun. I'll be shoveling snow quite soon, but watching Wonder Man, so I'll be all right. But thank you all for tuning in. Another great episode of Blerds in the Attic. We'll, same bad time, same bad channel. We'll be back.
We'll be back. Adios. I would say Excelsior with my normal thing, but I can't because Jim will kill it.
You've cursed enough today. That's fine.
Yeah, 100%.
We're out.
All right, peace.